Narcissistic people do not move on as such. They don't move on. What they do is they bury issues. They bury traumas. They don't deal with things. They pass the blame on to those around them and then move on to something shiny and new. They don't discard as such. They disengage. They put you to one side, whether they think of you as being good and helpful and kind towards them. They're just not getting their needs met by you, so they put you to one side, or whether they feel like you've humiliated them in some way, whether they feel bad towards you, not bad for how you would feel, but whether they put you in a box of not being a decent person, where they're looking to almost gain revenge on you. However, they disengage and they put you to one side, and then they seemingly move on with somebody new. A narcissistic person can technically move on at that moment. They've moved on. They're not thinking about you. They're not thinking about what you've done to hurt them. They're not thinking of what they need to do to punish you. They've moved on to somebody new, so that somebody new is filling their time so that they don't have to deal with understanding or closure or anything like that. They've got somebody new occupying their time. So they're focused on that new supply, and we are all supplied to narcissistic people. So just like when you met them and they were treating you well and they were selling you the illusion of what life would be like with them, when they were mirroring you and selling you your personality back to you, like they want the same things as you. That's all they're doing with the new. They've not moved on. They've not processed things. They've not let go. They've not recognized patterns. They've not learned from experience. All they've learned is how to exploit people, how to manipulate people, how to get away with their behavior. So they're just mirroring the new, love bombing the new, selling the new a story to get the attention that they require from the new supply. So although they might not have moved on to the point where they're still focusing on you, although they might have moved on to the point where they're not focusing on you, they haven't moved on. They're still stuck in that place of manipulation and mind games because they're looking to exploit people to get their needs met. Now, narcissistic parents can do this if they have more than one child or if they have one child. They can love bomb that child while they're getting their needs met from that child. And when that child isn't delivering what the narcissist requires, they will put that child to one side and go and gain the attention elsewhere. However, when a narcissist puts people to one side, they do it in a way that shames that person, that blames that person, that hurts that person. And that person finds it difficult to move on because not only are they trauma bonded to the narcissist who takes them through those highs and lows, they're looking for the understanding as to what on earth is happening. So genuine people don't just move on. Genuine people have a process of grieving and anger and pain that they have to go through. Narcissistic people don't want to put themselves through this, so they move on to a new source of supply. They don't have to deal with any of it then. They can just blame those around them. Now, when they do move on, they're going to look like they're living their best life. They're going to look like they've never been happier. Yet when they were with you, they were living their best life in the beginning. They were never happier than they were in the beginning. However, because they are incredibly envious people, no matter what they have, It is never enough, and they're always looking for that external source of satisfaction. And no matter what they get, it's not enough. Somebody has always got more than them, done better than them. They're looking to exploit people to get their needs met. Now, we can all be looking for external sources of happiness. However, the majority of people deal with their sources of pain. Narcissistic people don't. They deal with ways to cover up the pain. They blame somebody else. They seek revenge on somebody else, or they move on to somebody else. They seem happier because they're selling that deceptive appearance to themselves primarily, that they're okay and that their life is working out great for them. They're selling that deceptive appearance to themselves. They're creating that fantasy, that ideology of how they want life to be in their own minds, and they're creating it with the person they've moved on with. However, it's not what they want out of life, because they're mirroring that person, they're love bombing that person, they're future faking with that person based on what that individual person wants, not what the narcissist wants, because they don't want to delve too deeply with their own issues to figure their own life out. They want to exploit other people's. So they sell that deceptive appearance to themselves, they sell that deceptive appearance to the new supply, and they sell that deceptive appearance to those around them. They are selling people an illusion, not the reality, the hard reality of life that hits most of us, the suffering that hits most of us. They're selling that false belief to people. And in one sense, they're selling that false belief to themselves. And they sell that false belief to themselves so much that when that person does something to offend them, and they then move that person over to one side, they blame that person for ruining the false belief that the narcissist created. Narcissistic people don't move on because they don't learn from the past. They just keep repeating the same pattern of behaviour no matter who they are with. They idolise, they love bomb, they mirror, they future fake, and then they devalue. They seek to put other people down in order to feel better about themselves. And then they'll offer that intermittent reinforcement depending on what needs they desire to be met, and then they'll find a replacement, and then they'll disengage, and then they'll either smear the person's name so that the narcissist can play the victim to the reality they created, or they might go and hoover when they realise that they've lost control. They might smear, or they may hoover when they realise that the old supply is now doing better without them. They go and hoover. Now, when people have been discarded by a narcissistic person, they can channel their pain and their anger and their resentment into making something of themselves. They're processing the pain, but they're channeling it towards something positive, something towards the future. They're recognising the patterns in their life that they don't like, and they're doing something to create that change. They're processing the pain, they're processing the patterns, and they're learning from those patterns, and they're making changes for the better. Or when a narcissistic person sees that an old supply has made changes for the better, the narcissist is then envious of that person. And as they haven't moved on as such, they then seek to exploit an old source of supply in order to get their needs met. And they lack the empathy to care for those they hurt in the process. So no, a narcissistic person never truly moves on because they don't deal with life. They cover up life. They cover up problems. They skirt around the issues. They avoid the issues. They believe they've suffered more than anyone, yet they're never willing to go through the suffering to process and learn. And it's devastating whether the narcissist disengages with you or whether you end it for good with them. It is painful. However, going through that pain, it's a hard way to learn. Unfortunately, it teaches us things. Narcissists don't learn because they just repeat. It's a pattern with them. They don't move on. They put things to one side and find other things to occupy their mind so they do not have to deal with the things that they put to one side. And as they're forever putting things to one side, those things keep coming back now and again to haunt them, to cause them problems, which is why they seek more and more external satisfaction to run away from their internal pain. No one likes dealing with pain. However, the majority of people who have been left by a narcissistic person deal with their pain and move on because they've dealt with it. Yes, there are some internal traumas from external sources that take a lot longer to heal and process, and we are all individuals in how we go about this. We're all individuals with how we process our trauma and process our suffering, and some things do stay with us. We just learn the coping mechanisms to deal with them. However, we can recognise them. Narcissistic people aren't interested in recognising these. They're not interested in going to therapy. They're interested in covering their tracks and blaming everybody else. So every now and again, those internal issues, and it's worse for a narcissist in some aspects, not to feel sorry for them. It's their own doing. Their suffering, their pain is usually due to the issues they've created, the problems they've created for themselves that is tormenting them because they don't deal with it, they don't change. It's worse, and it's not worse because one person's suffering is worse than another person's suffering. The difference is the root cause of that suffering. One person's suffering can be from external sources that they have to process and deal with, and it's painful and it's heartbreaking. And then another person is their internal problems that they've caused for themselves that they are unwilling or unable to admit to deal with, so those problems linger longer because they can't communicate them. Such as if you've suffered some form of loss, you can discuss it with other people. Narcissistic people can't discuss their internal injury, their internal suffering, because that would then expose who they are to others. Genuine people, it's usually sort of external traumas. So a death in the family, a loss of a loved one, somebody seriously ill that caused those traumas that we have to work through. Narcissistic people tell that many lies that they can't keep up with themselves, let alone the people around them. If anyone has any thoughts on this video on whether or not you think a narcissistic person moves on, please do add those into the comments. Thank you very much to all the returning subscribers and your continued support with the channel. It's greatly appreciated. If you are new to the channel, I'm Elizabeth Shaw. This channel is all about narcissistic behaviour to give you more understanding of the people you might be dealing with within your life, how to handle yourself around those people if you cannot get no contact, and different methods to find what works for you to help you understand and overcome narcissistic and emotional abuse. If you do find the information helpful on the channel, please do subscribe. If you are looking for further help and support in understanding and overcoming narcissistic and emotional abuse, I do have several online guides available, and those teachable links are in the video description. If you're looking for someone to speak to, I have partnered with BetterHelp, and their sponsored link is also in the video description. Go out there and create the day that you deserve, because you do deserve to have an amazing day. Bye.